Hi, I'm Jon G4ABQ and I've got a confession to make. I've been a radio ham for over 50 years and I've been with SDRplay from day one, but I have never set up an RSP as a Panadapter. My colleagues Mike and Steve over in the States are very familiar with the process, but it's something I've never got round to doing. I'm not very active on the ham bands. But that's something I intend to change, so I thought it was time to dust off my trusty ICOM 718 and my Drake linear amplifier and see if I can get them working together with a RSPdx. So to achieve this, there's two things we have to do. The first is to protect the RSP from being blown up by all that powerful RF energy coming from the ICOM transceiver and linear amplifier. And to do that, we'll be using the MFJ 1708B TR switch. And the other thing we have to do is to set up software called Omnirig in order to get the RSP and the ICOM transceiver working in sync. So the idea being, we go to a signal on the SDR and it will control the frequency of the ICOM and vice versa. So the first thing you'll need is a CAT control cable. So this is the cable that's going to connect your computer to the ICOM. And at one end of it, it has the UART electronics, and at the other end just a simple single jack to go into the ICOM. So being in the UK, I bought this on eBay from a guy called G4ABQ, Steve, who has a very good feedback on his shop. And for £15.99, just under $20, I sent off for this and it came a couple of days later. And there's the cable, ready to plug in. So connected to my Windows 11 PC, I've got a good quality powered USB hub for all the peripherals, and we're going to plug the ICOM into that. So looking at the back of the ICOM 718, there's a key here to all the various sockets, and as you can see, the remote socket is basically the one on the end. So we go to this socket here, and that's where we're going to plug in the mono jack plug on the end of our cable. So now we need to make sure we've got the driver for our UART cable, the cable that connects from the PC to the ICOM. Very conveniently, with my cable came a little slip of paper with the address of where to download the driver. So I simply went to the Silicon Labs website and to their downloads page, and at the top here was their universal Windows driver, which I downloaded and installed on the PC. So now it's time to connect your MFJ 1708B SDR TR switch, which is very clearly labelled. The ICOM transceiver goes to the transceiver input. The SDR is connected to the SDR port on the left, and the right hand port, it either goes to an antenna, or in my case I'm going to drive the linear amplifier from this one. If you're not using a linear, the RF sense itself may be adequate, but there's also the facility, and in the case of the 718 we have a send output socket here, which is the far left hand one, and you can hear it clicking across as it's grounded, and that is grounded by tapping the key of the transceiver. So as soon as you transmit, this little box is protecting your SDR and ensuring that the antenna input is grounded. Because we are using a linear, as well as having the signal going to our sensing switch, it's important that we tell the linear to transmit, and there's a separate auxiliary output socket for that. So we plug from that auxiliary socket into the transmit port of our linear amplifier. And this is a picture of the back of my Drake L7 linear with its Vox relay, as it's called, input. Basically, when that's grounded, the linear goes into transmit mode. So that's on this particular linear. Just one thing to note, when you're setting up your RF switch, the MFJ 1708B SDR comes as a default typically with a couple of jumpers set as shown in the documentation, and in particular JP1 is set, jumper 1 is set to the left, which means it's grounded on receive, and we actually need it to be grounded on transmit, what they call ungrounded to receive. So basically you need to move jump JP1 across to the right hand side. So that's something I've done here, and then all is well. So now in theory all the hardware is just ready and waiting for the software needed to do the rig control. So for that we're going to load up Omnirig. So Google for Omnirig. And it comes from DX Atlas, and it's very important to make sure you have Omnirig version 1, not the version 2, which is prone to lots of problems. Anyway, if you look on the DX Atlas website, Omnirig 1.2, supported radios, and just checks on here should be the IC718. And there it is, IC718. So we go to the downloads page and select Omnirig, download it, open it up, extract it, and run. I've added a link to the webinar slides for setting up a Panadapter in the comments below. And if you look at those, we can go to the Omnirig setup slide, which is a great checklist for the settings that you just need to make sure in Omnirig are matching the settings associated with the rig. What we're going to do next then is just check in SDR Uno that we've got these default settings correct, and make sure over on the main panel when we go to settings that the main control window is seeing that the rig 1 is online, and that there's a connection from SDR Uno to Omnirig. So let's just check those Omnirig settings. Omnirig, having installed it, it's just there in the background, and up comes its little control panel. We're in the Rig 1 tab, which is where we want to be. We've selected the IC718 as our transceiver. We've made sure we're on COM3 so that it matches what's in the device manager for the ICOM, and the baud rate 9600. in SDR Uno, make sure you enable Omnirig. So by pressing this RSyn1 button in the receiver control panel, you assign Omnirig control to this particular VRX. We've only got one here, which is the main VRX. So now Omnirig has control, but we do need to just check the settings first of all for the VRX, and this is the VRX settings control window, where you'll see there's a tab for Omnirig called ORig, and just these defaults should be fine, but just make sure they are, that you've got rig 1 selected and these default settings that you see here. Over on the main panel, go to the settings there, and again scroll along and select ORig, and if everything's working well, you should see that the rig 1 status is online, and you've got a little message here saying connected to the Omnirig server. So now let's try it out. Over at the left you can see the rig, the MFJ switch, the RSP. That's all connected up as shown before to the linear, and the antenna, we're using a G4ABQ antenna, and we're on a 40-meter band, and as you can see, if I spot an interesting signal here, I simply click on it. And the rig is following what I'm doing with my mouse as I scroll across the band on 40 meters. And should we decide we want to go and have a look on 80 meters, we just click on 80, and you'll see the band changes automatically. It moves us to lower sideband, and the rig following suit. A bit noisy here on 80 this morning. A lot of ADSL QRM up this end. But so you get the idea. And of course I can go over to the rig and just tune.
I got quite a bit done. I finished off that remaining edge. Completely finished that now. So, and went for the walk as well in the morning. So yeah, this morning, I think we've had some rain overnight. It looked a bit wet, but it's drying up now.
Let's go over to 20 meters.
Bravo, Charlie. Bravo, Charlie. Charlie, Victor, Papa.
So people find something different since they have to wait for one of our antennas for 4 or 5 months sometimes. And that's simply the way it is.
So that's all working very nicely with the RSP, the RSPdx in this case being the main station receiver, and we're just using the icon for transmit. For those of you who want to compare the performance of an RSP with their transceiver receiver, this is a great way to do it, because you can alternate between listening on the icon, listening on to a particular signal with the RSP. What I'm going to finish off with though is just making sure that we can transmit, that our MFJ switch is doing its job in protecting the RSP input. So now it's time to just check out the transmit facility. I mentioned I've got a G5RV about 20 meters high at the center, and I've inserted a Capco 3000 ATU in between the linear and the antenna. And for all the receive demonstrations, I've just had it on bypass mode. Obviously when I'm transmitting, I need to make sure my transmitters match to the antenna. I've just been through that process, and we're ready to operate on 20 meters. I found a quiet place in the band, and as you can see, this is G4ABQ just testing on 20 meters. And you would have seen the attenuated transmit signal still at something like -30 dBm and well below the safety threshold of the RSPs, where we don't recommend continuous operation above 0 dBm. Maybe short periods can be 10 dBm or so. So we're well within that, and I'm running the full 400 watts power level here in the UK. So it's worth emphasising here, we're using the RSPdx as the station receiver, and just using the icon for the transmit path. It's really been great fun doing this, something I should have done a long time ago. As I say, I'm not very active transmitting, but this certainly brings a new dimension to it, where using the RSP as a receiver, seeing that full band, not just using a Panadapter display like an IF out, for example. You really see the whole band, and it brings my little ICOM 718 up to date with the very latest SDR techniques, all for a modest price of just adding that TR switch, the cost of the RSP. And to finish off, I had a couple of QSOs in a break just now, and I'll share with you the one I'm very proud of, which was a VK. So Australia from the UK as my second contact, and I'm not sure I would have stumbled across him if I had just been relying on the traditional tuning knob. So anyway, thank you for sharing this with me, and we'll just play out with that VK QSO. 73, everybody. Germany 4, Alpha Bravo Quebec. Germany 4, Alpha Bravo Quebec.
Delta Kilo 3 Tango Bravo 4 Alpha Bravo Quebec. Germany 4 Alpha Bravo Quebec. Is that the call sign? Over.
Yeah, you have it. It's Germany 4, Alpha Bravo Quebec. A very good morning to you there, Tom. It's evening here, 10 o'clock in the UK. It's the name is John, Juliet Oscar, November, and you're my second QSO using an SDRplay RSPdx receiver with an ICOM 718 transmitter. And it all seems to be working very well, and nice to have a really good DX signal there. So back to you. VK3 Echo Oscar from G4ABQ.
Yeah, copy the 718. You're doing a pretty good job. It's a little hard to hear you, but you're about a 5 and about a 4x4, about a 4x4 time. Just a little bit noisy here this morning. That's the only trouble, but copying you, mostly copying you at the moment. I did mention your name though. We're copying using a 718. I had a 718 years ago. Nice radio, very nice radio. Very easy to use, and a nice bright screen. So I like the 718. I got a lot of use out of it. But anyway, I'll just see if I can get you some correct. I'm not sure if it's George, but anyway, I'll put it back to you. The name here is Tom. Tango Oscar Mike. Tango Oscar Mike. And I'm located in Swan Mill in northwest Victoria. Door 4 Alpha Bravo Quebec from V33EO. Over.
Yeah, excellent, Tom. VK3 Echo Oscar from Golf 4 Alpha Bravo Quebec, and the name is John. John is the name. Juliet Oscar November. John is the name. The QDH is about 100 kilometres north of London, near the town of Bedford. Bravo Echo Delta Foxtrot Oscar Romeo Delta. And yes, I'm very, very happy with my ICOM 718, and I really wanted to have the benefit of a full spectrum display. So I finally got round to connecting my RSPdx, my SDRplay RSPdx, and it all came together quite nicely. And it's great that my second QSO is such a great DX station. So back to you. You're about a 5 and 5 here, 5 by 5, but a pretty good copy, Tom. Victor Kilo 3 Echo Oscar from Golf 4 Alpha Bravo Quebec. Yeah, 7-3s, Tom. Thank you very much for the QSO. This is G4ABQ signing clear with VK3 Echo Oscar. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
So that was great. That was, like I said, the second QSO here with this new fantastic setup with my RSPdx for my spectrum display, and there we are doing some nice DX. I should mention I was running a 400 watts through the linear, which is all being controlled nicely by the TR switch, and I'm using a G5RV up about 20 meters at the center. So that's the setup, and thank you very much for seeing my journey today as we finally I get round to using an RSP as a Panadapter.